On today's episode of Locked On Avalanche, well, that was something. The Avs get down early and just cannot recover. And they lose this one 5-2 to Tampa Bay. A lot to get to with this game. Let's talk about it. New episode of Locked On Avalanche coming at you.
Your Locked On Avalanche, your daily podcast on the Colorado Avalanche. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Locked On Avalanche podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Chris Maselli. With me, as always, is Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. Thank you for tuning in, making it your first listen of the day. Always appreciated. And make sure you're following us on our social media outlets, LOPN_Avalanche on Twitter X, Locked On Avalanche on Instagram and Threads. Questions, comments, concerns, and opinions, lockedonavalanche@gmail.com. And follow us on our YouTube channel. Hit subscribe, get notified when a new show goes live, and make sure you're subscribed to our subtext as well. Link to that's in the show notes below. When you do, chat with Kyle and I one-on-one. We get your opinion, everything Avalanche related, which we share on this very podcast. A lot going on over there tonight, as you can imagine. So let's just dive into this thing, man, because we knew going in it was going to be rough. You got the word on Ross Colton that he, in fact, does have a broken foot. He is going to be out for 6 to 8 weeks. You also heard earlier in the day that Miles Wood is going to be out 7 to 10 days. So right then and there, you're like, okay, that's two more guys that are now out. And they call up Tynan, they call up Steinberg, they put Kahkonen in net, they put Shillington, who's a defenseman, as a forward, they put Kiviranta on the top line. This was a patchwork. I joked on X that it's like it's the holiday season and it feels like this team is a Frankenstein right now, just being patched together. And boy, did it show in the first 5 minutes of this game. And the Avalanche get down like that. And we'll start there and then go from there, because honestly, it did get a little bit better in terms of you put up a fight, but there's a lot to get to in that aspect too. Talk about take it for wherever you want to go as a whole, and then we'll kind of break things down. But this team, when they get down as it is right now, that team that was out on the ice, when they get down by that many goals, just forget about it. Even though you have your top guy still in the game, that's just an impossible mountain.
Oh, Chris. The disadvantage of doing these shows right after the game. Usually, like when they win, it's elation. We could talk for an hour and a half. But games like this, watching the Avalanche come out to that start, and I know we had the People's Court on the goalie situation yesterday. And guess what? It ain't any better. I threw out on Twitter, this is the grand plan for making Georgie look good, putting the goalie out and having the same situation happen. Like getting down early. And this Avs team, we talked about the second part of the back-to-back being tired. I think this team's just tired of being down in the first period and having to work to put in double effort just to win a game. And we talk all the time. If you have Cale Makar, Nathan MacKinnon, Mikko Rantanen in this lineup, you're going to win a game. That's not true anymore because they are tired of climbing the mountain to try and win a game. And it shows in this one. And my goodness, that second goal and the elation that Tampa had, I just knew it was going to be the longest game of my life.
But it turned out not to be, honestly. It turned out to, the Avs fought and clawed their way back into this thing, believe it or not. But that start was just atrocious. That start was, wow. I agreed with you. I thought like this could be a 10 spot for Tampa. I really genuinely felt that way. I felt like, and I got to sit here and watch this thing because it's our job.
Yep.
And even if it wasn't my job, I'd do it anyway because I just, I love Colorado Avalanche hockey. But that was the beginning part of that was not Colorado Avalanche hockey. I'm not throwing the excuses out. You have guys out there that are at the level of being able to play in the NHL, so you got to put up a better opening to that. And I think they showed you as the game went on. uh, improvement. But we've said this about the Avalanche all year long: is their starts are terrible, horrible, and this was maybe the worst one. And it didn't help that the guy that everybody wanted to see, everybody wanted him to be the backup in Kaapo Kahkonen, and we all want to get rid of Georgiev and let's go with Eustace and Kahkonen. Before even seeing Kahkonen play a minute on the ice with the Avalanche, how you feeling after 5-6 minutes of period one? Now you can kind of expand that out and look at it as a whole and say, how are you feeling after the entirety of the game? And I would say not much different than having Eustace Saarinen in there, or not Eustace Saarinen, excuse me, Alexandar Georgiev. And we asked that question yesterday on if you're getting the same thing out of Kaapo Kahkonen that you've been getting out of Georgiev, why keep Georgiev? Because you can save $2.4 million. I don't know if the Avalanche are going to go down that road. They do they have an answer to it? Because we were saying, are we going to get answers by the end of this week? Maybe they don't have an answer after game one. Maybe this clearly didn't go the way they wanted it to go in the beginning. But are they going to look at the last, like the 2/3 of this game and say like, okay, we have a kind of an understanding, but that is a lot of balls to put into a basket of saying like, yes, we're going, this is the decision that we're going to make, that we're going to have to roll with for 4 months, 5 months until a trade deadline. I don't know if the Avalanche are there yet, but you'll hear it in my sound check on what this is to me. But it's you didn't tell the difference if it was Kahkonen or Georgiev in there right now.
See, and that's exactly my takeaway from this too. Watching that game and how like it was almost a mirror image of the Chicago game, and I'm sitting there like, this is the same goalie, the same situation. Like he cleaned it up, it looked good in the second and the third, like, but we're paying so much more and expecting so much more out of Georgie. But this is a guy that was put on waivers in Kahkonen. This is his first appearance with the team, and he had the same performance as the guy that's been with the team 2 or 3 years, and you're expecting the world out of. So it honestly, it came down to, I was like, well, if this is our backup, it's fine, because this is where Georgie has fallen. He's on this level, and I see that equivalent. But honestly, this is even on the goalies at this point. Like I almost had my little mini stick that my kids play with just to kind of prove and show everybody on YouTube. If I see one more no look to the side pass off the backhand, I saw so many of those passes just hoping it would land on somebody. It was so discombobulated.
Yeah.
It was frustrating to watch this team like try and climb out of that hole. Like, yeah, Kahkonen had some rust, like NHL rust. Like the game is definitely faster. I know he had his conditioning stint in the AHL, but I get it wasn't the greatest start in the world. But my goodness, they could not get anything going. Like the power play was abysmal. There was just so many things that just was not clicking. The second period started to look a little bit more pedestrian. And the third period, I'm not going to say it was incredible or anything, but
first of all, that was not rust with Kahkonen, because he's played recently, and that looked like I was joking saying like, we have a defenseman playing forward, we have a fourth line guy playing on the top line. It looked like we had a position player playing goalie.
Hey, maybe Georgie can play forward.
Holy crap! Like those first 3 goals looked terrible.
Yeah,
horrible, completely out of position, no idea what was going on. But fine, he did settle down after that. Tampa was giving you opportunity. If you could have a power, I didn't think the power play was terrible that they were getting good looks on the power play. You had a number of them. Would you have 5 of them? 4 of them. Yeah. So, I mean, if you can convert, we're 1 for 4. If you can convert on a few of those, you're in that. I felt like that's how the Avalanche were going to have to get into this game, and taking, those opportunities that Tampa was getting you, but they were not doing that. Here is this to me is just a referendum on the difference between these two teams and the goalie position. And this is no surprise. you have an all-world goalie in Andrei Vasilevskiy over there, right? Like he is. There's very few superstar goalies anymore. He's absolutely one of them. And for the Avalanche, we know what it is. I don't need to go into it. I love the deserve to win meter. Love that thing. Love it. Love it. Does it tell the whole story? Of course not. I don't want to get into that with people. Just fire away in the comment section. I don't care. But what it does is what it takes into account the most is average, I'm air quoting, average goaltending. Tampa Bay does not have an average goaltender. They have a well above average goaltender. So they would come down to an average goaltender while we would go up to an average goaltender. And when you take that into account, Kyle, the deserve to win meter has the Avalanche winning this game 83% of the time. Pause and think about that. If you get average goaltending and they get average goaltending, which they're not going to get, I understand that this is not how the game is played, but it tells some sort of a story on the difference between the all-world goalie. And I am not looking for all-world goalie. Like those are tough to come by. I am looking for you bring them up all the time. I'm looking for Darcy Kemper goalie right now, because you would have been in this game a lot more than you honestly were.
Yeah, and there's 2 points I want to talk about when we come back from the break that play into what you just mentioned right there.
All right. Well, then let's get in our first break, and obviously a lot more to talk about with this game, so we'll do that right after this. First, it's going to be FanDuel, and get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, which is America's #1 sports book, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. And the FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So, of course, when you get that hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. So just visit FanDuel.com to join today. And like I said, you'll get started with that $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That is FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more at FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, obviously more to get to with this game between Tampa and the Avs. Go ahead. There were some things that you wanted to bring up.
Yeah, when they were putting up the graphics before the puck was even dropped, and they put up Vasilevskiy, and he had a 911 save. Well, he's got a 911 now save percentage. Just seeing a save percentage that had a 9 in it, it struck me. I was like, ooh, that must be so nice. And like looking back, like Vasilevskiy had like 943 games. Like he's only had one sub 900 game in his last 5, and that's such something you take
what you pay for. That's what you pay for.
And it's you're just like, oh, what would the Avalanche look like? And then you also brought up the power play and having 4 opportunities, and this is where the absence of Ross Colton and Miles Wood was glaring like a beacon. Because you talked about the opportunities. Yes, they had the opportunities, but the second chance opportunities is where those 2 players are missed, because the way they were crashing and trying cleaning those up, it was just not there. And it was very prevalent in their play is, you could get the pucks on net, but what happens if it dribbles off or goes to the side? You can't hang it all on Nathan MacKinnon and Mikko Rantanen in those situations. And the lack of experience in those situations for everybody else in the lineup was apparent. But you see where everybody says, well, Miles Wood isn't playing that great. These are the moments that he shines. And Ross Colton and all the goals that he has accumulated so far, he really thrives in these situations.
I thought Nathan MacKinnon had a tough game trying to make any passes like during power plays, and just when the Avs were in the offensive zone, kind of like those like half saucer passes that he made, those backhand saucer passes that he make, even cross ice passes that he just loves to throw to Mikko all the time. But those little ones, those short ones, just intermediate passes, just seem like all of those were getting intercepted by him, at least in this game. And you kind of just expect guys like him to, that's going to happen in a game. But it was kind of glaring to me how many times it happened to him that he just could not get a puck in the house, in the slot to have to set up a guy, because he's so good at doing that, setting up his teammates to give them a good opportunity to get a good shot on net. And it just seemed like he struggled to do that. And that's to the credit of Tampa.
And we talk about Nathan MacKinnon's anger all the time, and you saw that come into play with those passes when they were interrupted. Nathan MacKinnon, he could flip that switch, take that anger, and pot a goal without even thinking, and everybody knows that's what's going to happen. But when Tampa was getting in the way of those passes, you could see that anger, the game will take him over, where he will literally do this. In Avalanche fans, if you watched any Nathan MacKinnon game, you know this moment where he makes a pass, makes a play, it doesn't go his way, and he does that little stop, that hesitation, where he's like, oh, that didn't work. And he just stops and hesitates, and the play carries on, and he has to catch up.
I wonder if it's, oh, that didn't work, or it's like that should have worked.
Yeah, that should have worked.
Because guys like him have a different mindset. And I always remember seeing an interview with Mariano Rivera, greatest closer of all time, indisputable, right? And someone asked him, like, when you like blow a save, do you give credit to that batter for, getting the best of you? And he goes, no, I didn't throw my pitch the way that I wanted to throw my pitch. I didn't locate the pitch right. Like, so it's my fault. I don't give him the credit. And I think that's where guys like Nathan MacKinnon come into play, where it's like, how you say, like, oh, that didn't work. It's not because of the play he made, because I didn't execute it the way I needed to execute it.
Yep. And then
maybe that's what was going on last night.
And you see that a lot when Nathan, because the complaint is he doesn't do back check. And this is why. It's that same anger that he could take over a game also allows the game to take him over, where he stops and you could see him literally computing in real time what didn't transpire, what do I need to do, and not making that real-time hockey play. And that was very prevalent in a lot of the and again, I agree with you. Credit to Tampa for being in the right place, right time, because they had the Avs figured out all night long.
And also credit to Johnny Lyles on Altitude. During the first intermission, he brought this up, where great scouting by, not even scouting. It's not scouting. It's just looking at the roster, right, for Tampa, and them seeing, that fourth line for the Avs. You had a defenseman in there who's been struggling defensively this year in the few games he's played. He's playing on your fourth line. And, he showed the replay, and you don't really see this. It's kind of tough to see this on the broadcast, because you just have that one camera view. But they showed a different view where when the fourth line for the Avs were on the ice, Tampa had their fourth line. They would win the draw, immediately get off, and their top lines would come on, and they got 2 goals that way. I know that happens. I know teams do that often, but it was like Tampa was making sure 100%. I don't care if we're in a good position after the draw. Back it up, get our top guys out there, because they're not going to be able to switch, and away you go. And that's what happened. And when you have a fourth line, like the fourth line so far for the Avalanche has been doing pretty well, but this was not their typical fourth line. This was just the guys. And you had Steinberg in that game, who he got the game misconduct, and he shouldn't have left his feet. If he didn't leave his feet, we're not even talking about having a game misconduct. But that's 2 hits. The one before that, beautiful hit. You like to see that a little bit in the Avalanche world of someone who's kind of got that bowling ball mentality, and he's got it. And you do stuff like that. That's and I want to say legal. No, it's not legal that he left his feet, but he wasn't going into a Matt Rempe type of hit. But when you do that for a team that doesn't get a lot of that stuff, that's how you stay in the roster. So of all the guys, I think he had a pretty good game.
Yeah, and I think Bednar was also picking up on that. He must have had altitude going on in the locker room, because that fourth line got cut off real quick. Like TJ Tynan, he was hovering around 8.5 minutes. Steinberg, he was about 4, and Shillington,
because he got tossed.
Yeah, and Shillington is hovering around 5.5 minutes. So that fourth line got cut off real quick.
Yeah.
And when you're making moves like that, like I get, you want to show edge and you want to stand out now that you're getting that call up, but you also have to realize that this team is missing Drouin, MacKinnon.
Oh, okay.
The list is long. You
Yeah.
can't add to it and get a game misconduct like that and set your team farther back than you already are. It's one thing to be physical and be noticeable, but it's another thing to put your team in a bind and set yourself down one more player.
And kind of going off of that, if you're watching on YouTube, the third bullet point for a third segment is, no moral victories. That's what the team will tell you. But should they not say that? Like, is there some moral victories to be had here? Let's get our last break in, and we'll discuss that next. All right, let's hear from Prize Picks, the Prize Picks app. It's the best place to get real money sports action with over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings. Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least two players for a shot to win up 100 times your cash. It's where you run your game all season long with Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the only real money daily fantasy platform with an injury insurance policy so that your lineups stay in place even if one of your players gets injured. If your player leaves in the first half or doesn't return, Prize Picks keeps your lineup live. So you can make Prize Picks is the best way to win real money this hockey season. Which players are going to go off, which ones aren't. Make your pick in less than 60 seconds and turn your sports opinions into real money all season long with Prize Picks. So download the app today. Use the promo code LOCKEDONNHL. Get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That code is LOCKEDONNHL, and you get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup over at Prize Picks. Run your game. So, all right, with the Avs, you knew this was, like I said in the beginning, this was going to be a tough one. And after they got that second goal, they pull within 4-2, and there's some decent amount of time left. But if the Avalanche are in that position, I'd say 97% of the time to make it fun. I have faith that the Avalanche could pull this off, possibly pull this off. I'm not saying they will, but they will. I think there was 7 minutes left when they scored that, around there. And okay, you can make have some good flurries here and get back into this game. I didn't feel that way, and it was all because of Vasilevskiy and how dialed in he was, and all that work that you did from the first period where you got your first goal, and all that work, like fighting. You had 30 some shots on goal in this game, 35 shots on goal. So you were getting your opportunities, fighting back, digging, clawing. And then you finally get one, and there's 6.5 minutes left. You just didn't feel like they got to do that 2 more times, and there's only a few minutes left in this game. It's probably out of hand. The Lightning get an empty netter, and of course it was. But the way that this game started, and you fast forward through all of it, and yes, you obviously lose the thing, but you battled. And I was, the first 5 minutes of this game, I was throwing my hands up, and I'm like, oh man, like it's going to be a long night. I don't want to watch this game. And by the end of it, I walked away like, okay, like I'm kind of impressed with this team or that roster, those guys that were out there. They didn't quit. They kept fighting. They kept battling. And for that, I got to give them some credit for that. Where it goes from there, I have no idea. But do you feel the team will tell you, like, yeah, there's no moral victories here. But with the team that was put together, which might be the team for Saturday too, Lehkonen might be the first one back. You might have him back for Saturday. Who knows? Do you feel like they could take how they played most of this game and carry that into Saturday?
Yes, and you got to walk a fine line here when it comes to this, because this is game 11, and again, it's a bad start, and that you can't make a moral victory out of, hey, at least you didn't quit. Well, you also quit on yourself in the beginning and made it much harder on yourself with a much depleted roster. So this is not acceptable, because like it's the same conversation around the goalie position and how they overcame like the comeback kids, like because of their intentional self-inflicted wounds on the start.
Mhm.
Like eventually you're going to keep spinning these little, well, at least, or in this situation, or if it was like this, you turn into a Maple Leafs fan. And that's what they've been doing for the last 20 plus years of painting the perfect scenario. If it was this way, they would win the Stanley Cup. That's the same thing Avalanche fans are starting to do with their quality of goaltending and their quality of defense at certain points and how they start games. You eventually have to say, hey, this is not good. We have to build on this. You can't keep accepting it and say, well, if we had this, you can wish all day long. Those guys aren't coming back in the roster. You've got to play with what you have, and you have to start games better.
Yeah, like I said, I don't think the team's not going to come out and say, it's a moral victory. The way that they'll phrase it is like, oh, it's something that we can build on.
Yeah.
And I take that as like, okay, that's a moral victory. We'll see where it goes because, yeah, like this team might look very similar on Saturday. So let's get to some subtext comments here. Brandon says Kaapo is probably getting waived. I think Sakic. It's not Sakic. It's McFarland.
Yeah.
Is still going to trade for another goalie. His sound check is broke down cowboy by the Dead South.
Ooh, love them. Love them.
So I honestly, Brandon, like I don't know right now. I don't know. Could he get waived tomorrow? Yeah. Could they say, okay, we'll give you another shot? Yeah. Could they keep the three goalies on the roster and through the weekend? Yeah. I honestly, still everything is on the table. Could a trade happen tomorrow? Sure. I think it is open season for the Avalanche right now in the goalie position, and what you trade to bring in. I don't know what that could be. I mean, everybody looks at the Gibson trade that could happen. You know, everyone's going to throw Mackenzie Blackwood out there, but is he?
No, not
That's what I
this year.
mean. Like
not this year.
It's not any better. So it's tough, man. It's tough. I get where you're going with that, but it could be he could get waived. They could hang on to him. Georgiev could get waived. A trade could happen. Everything is up in the air right now.
Yeah, I would lean towards a trade because the nightmare scenario for the Avs, Eustace goes out and has a pedestrian game. Then what do you do?
That's the thing. As I'm saying, like you're throwing all your weight behind him. You better hope he's the guy.
No.
Let's see. Katie said there was no way we were going to win. So I'm happy we were decently competitive at times and we scored twice. Keeping fingers crossed for Lecky and or Drouin sometime soon. I don't think Drouin is going to be soon. I think Drouin is more like a month or so away. Lehkonen is definitely, I think, your next guy up to come back. So, but I hear what she's saying. Like you don't really feel like you were going to be in this thing, and for a little while they were. After they seemed like they were not going to be. So I kind of want to give them credit for that.
Yeah, I just don't want Avalanche fans turning into Rockies fans. Like, come on.
Rockies fans.
At least we got a home run. No.
Let's see here. So Kyle wrote this in before the game. He said setting up Kakko to get absolutely shelled. Curious to see how he performs. I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't finish the game. That was before the game started. And it's true. Like it is an interesting thing to put him in for this game when it's his first game with this team. He just got called up and that's the team that they put in front of him, which is difficult for any goalie. So you got your answer, but what's the other alternative? Obviously, the other alternative is put Georgiev back out there. And if he has a terrible game, we're going to do what we've been doing with him and just dragging him through the mud. Doesn't matter the team that's in front of him. So it was just a no-win situation all around for this game. But the Avs at least made it watchable, I kind of feel.
They made the best move by not putting Eustace in that situation right out of the gate. Because, like I just said, if he would have went out there with that roster in front of him and had a bad game, it would be panic button, smash time.
Yeah. As I'm saying that, so Evan Rawl just posted that the Avs are looking to have Lehkonen return next Tuesday against Seattle. So likely won't be there Saturday. You're going to roll this team out again.
Yeah, that feels like it's the return date thing, because it's from everything I've been hearing, it sounds like he's ready to go. He's just waiting on that official date, and
Yeah,
it feels like they haven't given it yet. So Tuesday, sure.
yeah.
What what can it hurt?
Oh, yeah, I know, right? All right, so let's get to our sound checks. And you heard somebody in our subtext crew giving a sound check. And these are songs that Kyle and I come up with that summarize the most recent game. And these songs go up on a playlist over on Spotify, which you can listen to and search and take along with you in your times of need. And just search for LOA Soundcheck. This one is volume number 4. What do you got for this game, sir?
This one's going back to my Southern roots. Made popular by a very famous dumb movie franchise, but Roger Allen Wade. If you're going to be dumb, you got to be tough.
I love country music with these song titles that they come up. That's the full song title.
Oh yeah, they're from the Jackass movies.
Okay.
If you're going to be dumb, you got to be tough.
Okay.
If you're going to keep having first periods like this, you gotta you can't complain about it. If this is your MO, then overcome it and then be your quote unquote comeback kids. But you're setting yourself up for this, and you're not making it easy on yourself. So toughen up, boys.
That's funny. I don't like country music, so I if I'm gonna listen to this playlist, I might have to hit the skip button on that one. I mean, I'll listen to it first.
You'll love this one. This is a good one.
All right. I'm going with, I don't necessarily like this song, but it obviously fits. And I love the band. One of the most classic bands that you can have, and that's Aerosmith. And the song is Same Old Song and Dance.
Oh, that's a good song too.
I don't know why. I just never did anything for me. I mean, I don't know.
The guitar side really stands out to me.
Yeah. I mean, the Aerosmith has obviously some killer tracks, but for whatever reason, that one just never did it for me. But in this instance, it's my favorite song because it makes sense. It really is. You got down again by multiple goals, and you're fighting and clawing to get your way back in. You kind of do, and at the end, you give up an empty netter. Same old song and dance for the Avs. When it comes to losses, anyway, it's the same old song.
Now I got that riff in my head. Good pull.
It is catchy. I got to say, it is a catchy one, but I don't know. All right, so that is going to wrap it up for today, everybody. We will be back tomorrow. If there's any moves that happen, if the Avs are quick on the draw with this stuff, we'll talk about that, and we'll definitely have some morning leftovers for this one as well. So make sure you tune in to that one, and we'll wrap up the week. So thank you for tuning in, making this your first listen of the day. That is always appreciated. He's Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. I am Chris Maselli. This is the Locked On Avalanche podcast. And even though it was a tough game, you got through that, and you got through 24 hours. Sidney Crosby eventually becoming a Colorado Avalanche.
Bring Jari with him.